my channel. I'm Rachel. I talk a lot about crystals and vegan food, and my whole purpose in life is just to keep vibrating higher and inspire others to do the same. If you keep trying to live your best life, to keep trying to be the next best version of yourself, then life just keeps getting better and better, right? So that's my whole philosophy. That's what I'm here for, and that's what I'm trying to help everyone else do as well. Today, I want to talk about Organite. And I honestly can't remember if I got into Organite first or if I got into crystals first. It was right around the same time. It was in the same job where one person taught me about Organite and someone else gave me a textbook on crystals. And this was like 11 or 12 years ago. So I'm working at this place and we get this new girl and I meet her boyfriend. And she tells us that he's making these things. And I don't even remember how she described it or what she said about them. But I remember him bringing them in. I remember him sitting them on my desk. And I remember looking at these things and just being so fascinated. And I knew that he made them. I just thought it was so cool. The whole concept was cool. And the fact that you could make these yourself. So he didn't actually teach me how to make them, but he told me how to make them. Which, I mean, pretty much you need resin, you need metal shavings or metal, and you need a quartz point. And those three things make up Organite. What is Organite? So I am going to read a few different descriptions of Organite off of different online sources. My definition of Organite, just the simplest version of it is, and here's one. This is one that I made. I learned how to make Organite and I make them all the time. I have them all over my house. And in this video, you will find out why. Like, they actually work. I have so much cool experience with them. Anyways, so Organite is in essence an energy cleaner. The whole idea behind it is all the metal inside of the Organite attracts the energy because metal attracts energy, right? So all the energy in the room, whether you're talking about emotional energy like negativity or sadness or something like that, or if you're talking about actual things in the air like Wi-Fi and EMFs and all of that stuff, that's all energy, just different types of energy, right? So you put an Organite in the room, it's attracting all the energy, and then it cleans the energy through the crystal. That's the most basic explanation I can think of. So you put these around and they're just constantly cleaning up junk from the environment. So they make a place feel much more positive, much more protected. It's like a breath of fresh air, really, when you first put Organite in a room. Now I have them everywhere, so I don't actually feel them, but I recognize them and I really like them. And I think that every once in a while you need to put them in the sunlight. That kind of like cleanses them, recharges them, all of that stuff. And I've just found that they really like the sunlight. I think I've put them in the moon a few times before, but I'm just constantly drawn to put them in the sunlight and to tell other people to charge theirs in the sunlight as well. So let's see what some other people say about Organite. Organite is a substance which functions as a self-driven, continuously operating, highly efficient energy transmutation device, drawing in negative energy and transmuting it into positive energy. Organite has become very popular as a spiritual healing tool and as protection against EMFs. Organite was developed by William Reich, and he's the one that discovered that by layering organic and inorganic material, you can generate etheric energy, which he called orgone. So he actually died in federal prison in 1957, and his crime was to refuse to stop using the orgone generator boxes he invented, which were reported to cure people of cancer. Does Organite need to be cleansed? Let's see, shall we? It is almost impossible to arrive at a point where an Organite is saturated in the quartz starts to charge negatively. To summarize, if you want to cleanse an organite, which is almost useless, the simplest way is to let it bath in the sun for a couple of hours or to rinse it for a couple of minutes. So, how does orgone energy work? Orgone energy is similar to what the ancients have called prana, chi, or universal energy. Orgone is created by layering organic and inorganic materials that are able to harness this vital life force energy and amplify it so you can actually feel a sensation with it. And I have heard people say before when they pick one up, they feel energy right away. I've heard people just call them like, whew, high energy. I've seen people get headaches with them. They definitely are energy conductors, which makes sense because of the metal. Metal is an energy conductor. I personally put copper in mine when I make them, and I coil all of them myself. Here is a lotus flower organite that I made, and you can see in there all of the little coiled copper pieces. I coil all of those myself, and I try to make mine so that it's like part organite, part artwork, so they're just cute to have around. And even if people don't believe in the metaphysical side of them, at least it's something cute to look at. It's a piece of artwork. I've told people before that they're paperweights. You don't have to draw everyone into your craziness all the time. Just having these things around can still be helpful and still work, even if people aren't believing in them. However, so many people that have worked with me in my various jobs over the past decade know about these because I take them into all of my jobs and people see them work, which is why they get so crazy about them. And I actually just started getting really into selling these online in my Etsy shop. And so I advertised the other day that I was selling them, and a girl that I worked with 10 years ago bought one, and she was so excited. She's like, I've been waiting a decade for this. And she's absolutely right, because she was working with me at the job where I first figured out how to make these, and I first got proof that they worked. Here is my favorite part about the organites. They are supposed to either make people friendlier or get rid of them. I've had mixed reviews when I tell people that, because they get in their head like organite's gonna do something bad to them. No, it's not. It's giving them a choice. Be a better person or leave the situation. And I've seen it happen. When I first started making these, I brought them into my job and I had them all over my desk, and I had them in the front windows at the front of the shop. And at this time, I was working in a front desk situation, and we had this guy, this older gentleman, who came in every week, the same day, the same time for his appointment. I think it was like every Thursday at 4 o'clock or something. I don't want to say this was like the worst person in the world, or even the worst person that I had to deal with at this job. Let's face it, like when you're working with the public, sometimes you just run into people who are not pleasant. But it's not that this guy was overly unpleasant. It's just that he was a wealthy older man who was used to getting his way, and he belonged to a different generation who looked at women differently. Why am I making excuses for this guy? I don't know. So we had just gotten security cameras at work, and there was one right over my shoulder, right here, looking down at the desk, because, you know, this is where everyone checks out. This is where all the money is. This is where a camera is going to be. And so he notices that we have new camera. He's standing right here talking to the owner in front of me about me, but not necessarily to me, but he wants to make sure that I hear him. He looks up at the camera and he gets all excited that I'm on camera all day, every day. He goes, I see you have these new security cameras. They have a nice view, eh? Ah, yes. Looking at her all day. Oh, we could make money off of this one. We could make money off of her. So on and so forth. I don't remember the exact wording that he used. I mean, this was like 13 years ago, but So basically, this guy was just talking about how if he could get me to cooperate with him and perform on camera, like these are some of the words that he used, that he could make a lot of money off of me. And the owner's standing there and just looking a little bit like, shocked, what do I do? Let me get him away from her. I remember thinking to myself and then going home and telling whoever I was living with at the time, like rehashing this, and he was 100% sexually harassing me. So that's just kind of like an example of how this person acted, and the attitude he had towards life. And he was very condescending and sexist and just creepy, right? So I start bringing all these organites into work, and I'm telling people about them and what they do, and all of my coworkers think they're pretty and they're cool. And then one day, like a couple months later, we find out that this specific person went bankrupt and had to move to the Midwest. Immediately in my head, I'm like, it was the Organite. And I think just the combination of the fact that I had been telling everyone this is what it does. It turns people friendly or it gets rid of them. And then a couple months later, they saw someone that was harassing me disappear, in essence. I think that's when people started really kind of like listening to me more, and everyone suddenly wanted these all around them. So that's the first really cool experience I had with Organite. Through the years, I have had different jobs, and I have taken the Organite into the different jobs, and I've had similar but not as impressive experiences. The next big noticeable experience I had with these is in the last place that we were living. And we were living in a building of 4 townhouses, and we had a few neighbors moving in and out. We were kind of like in a place of transition, I guess. And we found ourselves in this space and time where we have this one building and this one parking lot in front of it. And we lived with 2 people in the back, with 2 units in the back. And so we both had backyards, and we were very friendly with each other. We got along really well. We were both like clean, and the 2 people in the front were very good friends, and they were very similar, and they were a little bit louder, they were a little bit more messy, things like that. We started having kind of like issues, kind of almost like neighbor wars. Everyone started fighting over parking spots. People in the front would let their animals outside all the time and not clean up after them. We would have to walk through all of their junk to get to the parking lot where everyone was fighting over parking spots. It got really, really heated for a while. It got really uncomfortable, to the fact that like sometimes I didn't want to go home. Sometimes I would drive past the building and make sure no one was in the parking lot before I went home. It was a very uncomfortable situation, and it just kept getting worse and worse. So eventually, me and the other girl who lived in the back unit, we decided to take all of my Organite and to kind of place it all along the front walls of our house so that it was butting up against the apartments for the people up front. And after that happened, everything started changing. A lot of stuff changed. We both ended up moving out of there within, within a year. But also, like, everything did kind of just like die down and calm down for a little bit. And I remember someone saying something about how calm it was, and I was like, it's the Organite. And people, they just think I'm crazy. But when you've been in enough situations where you bring this certain tool in and you see it working, then you know it's working. And I 1,000% believe in these things, and I think they're great to have around. I think it's great that you can learn to make them yourself. They are really easy to make. The important thing to kind of keep in mind when you are making them is you're supposed to kind of keep a 50-50 ratio of metal to resin. So if you notice, my pieces, they are just full of metal. And that's one thing you want to be careful of, if you're making your own or if you're buying them, because I've seen a lot of mass-produced organites that are beautiful, and I'm sure that they work, and I'm sure that they have great energy. But when you look at them, a lot of them just kind of have a lot of crystal chips in them, and then you can see it almost looks like glitter. They're just tiny, tiny pieces of metal, and then they have a wrapped quartz point. I feel like you just need more metal in them than that, because metal is the magic in these, right? Metal is what attracts all of the energy. So in essence, like the more metal you have in there, the more power you're going to have, the more energy you're going to be able to move through the device. So even when I make pieces with crystal chips, like these are all just crystal chips, even when I make these, I still fill the rest with metal. I think it's very, very important to have enough metal in these. So I just have all these different molds that I use. You want to use resin, and like I said, I use copper. Sometimes I color the resin with all different kinds of things. I've used acrylic paints, I've used food coloring, I have used makeup, I have used tattoo ink. I have just experimented a lot with these. When I first started making them, I don't even know where any of those are right now, but I started putting any kind of metal I could find in them. I went through all of my costume jewelry, and I would throw jewelry pieces in some. So I have some that are very like haphazard and almost abstract looking. But for the most part, I do make my own metal coils. Sometimes I do put little like charms in them and things like that. And like I said, I do sell these on my Etsy store if you're not someone who likes crafting or making your own stuff, or if you just want to buy them. But a lot of people make these on Etsy. There's so many different styles and kinds. I just think that no matter where you get it from, you should get some. You should try it. Orgonite is so cool. It's right in line with like the crystal energy thing, but it's just slightly like different. And I think that they are really powerful tools. I'll have them around me forever. Like since I started making them, I have them all over my house. I mean, all over. I don't just mean one in every room. Like I'm to the point now where I've been making them for so long. I have them everywhere. And I experiment with them a lot. Like this one I just made, and it has a top on both sides. I actually made two tops. Well, so I poured this one and then I attached another top to it so it has texture on both sides instead of being flat on one side. And it has all this metal in here. And this one actually has two wrapped quartz points, I think, because I put one on the inside and it has crystal chips. This one has mostly peridot, but I think there's some fluorite in here too. And then just lots of copper wire. But I just thought this was really beautiful. Even though there are rules for these, there's not rules for these. Like you can play with them and make them your own. And as long as you have a lot of metal and a wrapped quartz point, that's really like the basis of what you need to make these. And let me know down below if you guys want me to do a little video on how I make them. I can show you what I do. It's pretty simple. It is a little bit time consuming, especially since I wrap my own coils, but I would be more than happy to share my secrets with you guys. So thanks so much for watching me ramble on and on today about my orgonite stories. I hope that you guys learned something. I hope that this piqued your interest in orgonite and you think about getting a piece or trying to make some pieces. And if you do have any stories about orgonite, please let me know down below. You guys know I love to hear your weird stories. It makes this whole experience just so much more fun when you can share it with other people. And I guess that is all I have to say today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to share this with your friends if they are trying to learn about this kind of stuff. I really appreciate it, and I hope you all have a great day.